This is exciting for me because the classifieds and directory business is where I started my career, where I was more on the edge of the jungle probably than I should have been. My experience started out when I graduated from grad school, and I started working with classifieds, online directories, yellow pages, and I was working with a company, still around today, and what we did was build out online taxonomies to move yellow page headings, directory headings, classified headings to a more sophisticated, granular taxonomy or classification system. And I love that job because we were basically creating new ways for people to advertise and new ways for people to consume the content. And that sort of hit a dead end for me personally because I was involved in the business development end of that, and people would build out more and more sophisticated directories and classified systems with these taxonomies. And the advertisers loved it. They would advertise, instead of under health and beauty, they would advertise under massage and pedicures. And we'd build out these massive taxonomies for people. And it was super helpful. But it wasn't really growing people's business. It was a navigational help, and people appreciated it, and it was much more precise for classification. But people weren't really able to grow their business. And it was kind of a nice to have. You know, and people would say, well, this is great, but I need to make more money, and I need to make my directories, my classifieds grow. So I quit my job, and I got into the content space because I realized that the way to drive people to classifieds and the way to drive people to directory listings and the way to drive people to commerce was through content, in my opinion. So I'm going to share that with you. It's just my perspective, but I think it's relevant to everybody in this room in some way, either because it's something that they don't want to do, or it's something that they're thinking about doing, or maybe it's something that they're kind of doing now. It's certainly not a quick fix solution, but it can really be a game changer. So I want to talk about content and classifieds, or classifieds and content. So I would ask you to, just for the sake of the next 20 minutes, sort of turn your business upside down and think about your business. If it's an auto site, what if it wasn't about the classifieds, but it was about the content, and the classifieds was the way you monetize the content, right? So completely flip your logic. And if you are somebody who's in the content business and you have classifieds or listings or commerce to support it, maybe you could flip it in the reciprocal. But I'd like you to change your mindset for a second, just for the sake of this conversation. Oh, two of them. Got it. It's complicated. We don't have these where I come from. What do I mean by content? I mean all of these things, right? Blogs, professionally generated content, participatory media, wikis, licensed data, all those things. So I'm taking a very broad definition of what I call content. The only thing that I'm not talking about are different kinds of ad units and different kinds of listings and different kinds of classifieds that you could wrap around your core business. I'm talking about related information. I'm talking about a conduit to commerce and classifieds. Any one of these is fine. Whatever you're thinking about makes perfectly good sense. I would call it lead gen and navigational content. I don't think you need to call that to your consumers, but that's really what I'm talking about here. Creating an environment where people have to come and see you because of the topic, not because they're looking to buy something, or they're looking to transact business, or they're looking to find buyers. One way that we intelligently divide the classifieds user is the same way that we do in the content business at a company called Yahoo. right? There are passive users, and there are proactive users. That's really a whole different way when I came to Yahoo the way the world's divided. There are people that are passively walking around the world looking for information and are grabbing onto things. And there are people that are just going to the place in the room where they know the information is interesting to them, but they have no real mission. And then there's proactive users that are going to must have information that they have to have, right? You have people in autos and real estate and things that are just casually browsing the aisles. They may or may not buy something, the way somebody goes to a department store or the way somebody goes into a car lot or anywhere else, and they're casually collecting information because it's something that they're interested in. And then there's people who are going to make a decision, that are looking for a certain thing at a certain time. And I think it's important to think about what people's inspiration are. If you have a business that's only built on people who are proactively looking to transact business and to buy and sell things, that greatly eliminates the top part of passive people. And passive people are what we all are the rest of the time. This is just an interesting way to think about the world, right? These are the top internet yellow page headings. We could be using top classified headings or whatever, but some of these things are essential things that are people usually going after on a proactive basis, being very task-driven, right? Auto parts, repair services, government agencies. These are topics that people go after in a very proactive way, generally speaking. Non-essential things. Things that you're passively consuming on a daily basis. New and used cars oftentimes is passive or borderline passive. Then you start to see the non-essential things. They're also in the top 5, right? Restaurants, beauty salons, pizza, food and products, things like that. Clothing, book dealers. Lots of these things sort of allow you to think about what people's perspective is on as they consume this content. Why content? You have to capture researchers, right? And you can't. It's great to capture them when they're in transaction mode, and that's what everybody here is about: conversions and having successful relationship for people that create listings for you, or consumers that are looking to transact business. But you have to create. You have to create an environment where you're delivering information to consumers. All right. If you just create a standalone listings business, commerce business, classified business, and you're not getting people where they get the information, you have to create the demand and define the researchers. Creating demand is an important thing to do, because there isn't, for all of those things that were yellow and orange up there, those are things that are nice to have. They're generally passive people that are looking to consume that content and information. You have to evolve a site personality, okay? This doesn't mean the presentation layer per se, and I think a lot of people get wrapped up around that. A lot of the most successful listing sites, they have the presentation layer is Craigslist, it's whatever. Even the paper classifieds listings of old, that wasn't about the presentation layer. It's about the content inside, and it has a personality. Who's there, who comes there, who's transacting business, whose footprints are there, whose footprints are going to be there. What kind of a group is that? Is that a kind of group that you want to be a part of? Is that a kind of group that you don't want to be a part of? Is it trustworthy? Is it not trustworthy? All of the things that create personality around it can only come from content, in my opinion, for the long term. Create a following. Right? You need people that are tracking you all the time and want to know what's going on and what's happening in this world. So when they want to be proactive and transact business, they know where to go. The only way to do that is to create a brand awareness and create a following when it's not time to transact business. Embrace peer-to-peer relationships. This is a super important part to me. People were starting to find out. Google was some of the first people that started to realize this information. People might trust other people than they do to trust a business. Right? You'll find that people who use sites like eBay, where we're having a peer-to-peer relationship, I don't know you, but I just bought a car from you. I just bought a car from you. I don't even know you. You're 500 miles away, but I've got no problem buying a car from you. There is more trust in that relationship than there often is when I wander over to, especially in the United States, when I wander over to used car lot and there's some wacky guy who's trying to sell me a car and I don't believe a word out of his mouth. That's amazing, right? I don't even know you at all. I can't even see you. You could be a robot. But I'm probably going to trust you more than I am going to trust going to see a car that I could actually touch, feel, and meet the person who owns that car and interact with them and be able to come back and strangle them if they sell me a bad car or whatever. If you think about that concept for a second, that's pretty crazy. We need to get into that space. It may not be from peer-to-peer transactions, but it can be from peer-to-peer relationships. Me giving you information that's wrapping around the listings that you're talking about. What are some ingredients for what this must be? What must this kind of content be? It has to be original and it has to be authentic. Okay? I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're trying to wrap content around their commerce is they go and they just license a bunch of content that everybody else in the world has. There goes your personality, there goes your authenticity. It also kills you in search engine optimization. It kills you in tons of other places. In fact, it screams no personality whatsoever. You got the same content that everybody else has. It's sort of baseline content. Data is different. Make, model, schools, tax districts, all that sort of stuff. We all sort of view that information is more ubiquitous, but when it comes down to content, it needs to be original and it needs to be authentic. That can also be evolved by having those personal relationships, those peer-to-peer relationships where you're actually having people spill themselves onto your pages. Differentiated voices. It's fine to have people say that certain products are good and bad. In some of the surveys that we've done, we found that people are more inclined to be committed to a property if they will see a listing on a page and then some content around that listing which says that that product is garbage, right? That's a little bit contrary to what people think, but that level of differentiated voices means a lot to people. At Yahoo, for example, we have a very clear rule. Somebody like Johnson & Johnson or Procter & Gamble, they may buy a big ad unit in health and beauty. And there might be an article on that page which talks about how P&G's products are garbage. And if you don't allow that level, that conflict of differentiated voices on pages, and your content is so advertorial that it's just like, this is the best this, and this is the best that, there have to be some bad cars. There have to be some neighborhoods that aren't so great in real estate. There have to be some of these sorts of things. And so you have to embrace differentiated voices. That's risky. Some advertisers don't like it. It may not be that realistic, but in the long term, the value of that is super powerful because you engender a belief that this is an authentic site with differentiated voices. Clearly, it has to be optimized for SEO and distribution. I see a lot of people creating content around listings and commerce properties, and they're spending $150,000 a year on content that they're creating, but their site is basically undiscoverable by mankind. And they think it's just going to be direct nav people that are going to come right to their site because they're advertising their site in certain places. All of this stuff has to be 100% optimized, and you all know what that is. I don't think it's that hard. I think it's also the responsibility that you put that into the hands of the people that are creating the content. Again, that makes it more authentic. If an auto site is sitting there saying, hey, look at this article, hey, look at this article, look at this video, check this out, it's much better if the person who created that content is saying, look, my content is now on this site. So the responsibility of this distribution and optimization shouldn't be in the hands of the domain or the property owner as much as it should be in all the people that are around it and supporting it. It should be littered with data, okay? People love data. People expect to see data. People expect to see information that helps them navigate through their experience. It's also a real way to get additional traffic. There are tons of places that where you can license standardized data. It's not always that expensive. And I think the ROI on it's a pretty easy math problem to do. But people want to know all of the different things. People want to know about all the different models of different items. People want to know about, like I said, tax districts and schools for real estate and all that sort of stuff. If you can provide that information, it's a much richer experience, and you're going to get people coming to look at that information. We call that tools as much as anything. It has to be fresh, okay? If you have old content, it doesn't matter. You have to have very new content all the time. You might call that news. That's fine. You can call it news. You can call it whatever you want, but it needs to be fresh. There's lots of reasons that it needs to be fresh. The main reason why, though, is because social media doesn't work with old content. It literally doesn't work. So this is basically like saying I have to be involved in social. If you have to be involved in social, you have to be involved in fresh content. Things don't get tweeted annually every year. Things don't get linked to on Facebook every month. The only value in old content is probably in search and search engine optimization, and the things incubate over time, but only if they're really good. Things have to be fresh. There have to be conversion-based analytics on the back end. Now, I know what I'm talking about with content. For some of you, it sounds like, yeah, that's great, but it costs a fortune. You can manage an ROI on this pretty effectively if you're tracking your content acquisition costs and the conversion rates. And those applications and those technologies are much more available today. But you need to be taking an analytical, metrics-driven approach to this. You can't just say, I've got a ton of content and it's not working. There needs to be a clear ROI. I'm putting this content out there. It's providing me with additional traffic that I can convert on at what percentage, at what ROI, at what cost per acquisition for users. Multiple content formats. This is really important. The world of just articles is increasingly becoming over. We need articles. We need images. We need videos. We need tools. We need forums. You'd be so surprised, okay, for those of you who have $0 and 0 cents to put towards this, it may be hard to get into the really original content space, but not even that much. I know people that have launched a sort of blog platform on the side of their classifieds where they've had their 15 power users creating content for them, and they tell them that they're going to give them X percentage of the traffic or the revenue to that. So that was basically free out of pocket. They get images, they get image feeds. Granted, they're not totally unique, but they come from sources like Flickr and things like that, and they get the API set up for that for certain cars, certain real estate areas, certain neighborhoods, certain products and services. That's free. That's enriching. There's enough image worlds out there that you can access that sort of stuff. Tools, tons of tools that you can embed on your pages, mortgage calculators, payment calculators, things like that are free. And forums that are obviously free. And if you just added those things out of pocket, you're at basically zero except for your time. And that's not going in the world of premium content, but that's getting yourself way down the road with lots of different formats and lots of different content types. And I think it's super meaningful. Let me look at some screenshots really quick where we can sort of say we like, say we don't like, whatever. But I think they'll be conducive to at least 5 or 10 minutes of questions that people might have or comments, or people might just tell me that I need to get my head screwed on straight. But Yahoo Real Estate, it's okay. We're redoing it. But there are some things about it that make a lot of sense. The content is localized. Okay, every time you go, it's a hyperlocal page, and that's by where you are on IP address, but also where you're geotagging yourself and where you're dropping yourself on the world. And you might be in New York, but you're interested in real estate in New Jersey. Like I said, it's got tools. It's super participatory, so it's very interactive all the time. You're embedding content from other properties to increase your page rank from an SEO standpoint and making bridges to other places so that you have more traffic coming in as opposed to just direct nav traffic to the top. I'm not a fan of these sort of stock images up here, but there are some things about this page that work really well. As you can see, it's very link driven. But that's a lot about advice. It's a lot about how-to guides. It's a lot about a glossary. The glossary up top, everybody could create a glossary. What you see, is this thing a pointer? Maybe this is a pointer. Yeah. See that up there, that glossary? That's like the only place I can't point. There we go. That's super valuable. Anybody could create a glossary. People appreciate glossaries. Glossaries perform well on search. It allows people to get more information that's along the lines of data and having data in your environment. This all segues, every single link on this page segues onto listings and commerce. Here's a local site in Ireland. Very, very, very good content. Super fresh. Things that were just made within, when I made this presentation just a few minutes ago. Right? That thing had just been put on there, this super fresh article. It's original content, can't find it anywhere else on the web. It's all connected to these horse finder listings. They're distributing all of these videos that they publish through YouTube, so they have their own YouTube channel. This person, I suspect, is probably doing this for free. They may be swapping out horse listings for the content submissions. They have 588 followers. This one piece of content, I'm sure, creates a generous amount of traffic. And then the last thing I want to talk about is this right here, okay? I know not everybody's a huge Craigslist fan. I'm not a Craigslist fan, so I'm on the record as saying that. Whoops. But what I want to show you is this, okay? This is what I want to leave you with. The majority of what happens on Craigslist is around content, okay? There are 120 million postings in these discussions, and there's only 50 million postings in the classifieds. This is all, one thing about Craigslist that people don't really know is that this is what Craigslist is about because you're not always looking to transact on these topics. They realize that. So they're trying to create a standardized following of people that have that create their social life around Craigslist. That sounds like a crazy thing to do, but all these discussion forums do that. Some of them directly connect to things on the classifieds page, but a lot of them don't. They're trying to make it so it's part of your common language and common experience to be going there on a regular basis. That's what I got.